Hey, this is John Classic, and in our last lesson we talked about the C major scale, playing the C major scale, and more specifically playing in the key of C all over your neck. So if you haven't seen that lesson, you can go review it. Now today I'd like to talk about some specifics about practicing scales. There's lots of ways that you can practice scales. You can practice scales to familiarize yourself with where the notes are on the neck. You can also practice and focus on technique. And today we're going to be talking about technique, playing with proper technique. So the first thing that we want to talk about is a concept that relates to all musical instruments, and that's economy of motion. What this means is this: we want to move as efficiently as possible. We want to move as little as possible. Let me give you a concrete example. If I'm going to play this note here with this finger, it's not a really good idea for me to let this finger fly all the way out here, because I have to cover all this real estate to get that finger down, okay? And when we're new at playing an instrument, as you know, I'm sure, you find that your fingers just want to fly away from the neck, okay? So one of the first things we want to accomplish is keeping the fingers right next to the strings, okay? And when I say right next to the strings, I mean like my fingers probably stay, I don't know, a couple millimeters away from the strings under ideal circumstances. The other thing we want to talk about is where we place our fingers in terms of the frets. Now, if I fret a note, I've got this whole space in here where theoretically I can put my finger down. You hear that when I'm fretting kind of in the middle, I got a little buzz. But if I put my finger right next to the fret, right nudged up against it, not on top of it, but just nudged up right against the fret, I get a really good sound. So where you want to fret in every case is right up against the fret. And see, my hand right now is in sort of like the ideal shape. My fingers are right over the frets, and my fingers are just, if I just drop them down, they're going to be in the perfect place in terms of where they should be in relation to the fret. Okay, so those are the first two things: keeping my hands from flying away and keeping my fingers in a position right above the fret. You can see my left hand behind my neck. My thumb is more or less, it's almost between these two fingers, but it's probably cheating closer to that one. We don't want to do this. Our tendency a lot of times is to grab the neck, but we want to bring this thumb over so our hands can then come out and be over the neck. Let me show you what I mean again. If my thumb crawls up here, my fingers end up in this position, and they can't really do much from there. But if I bring my thumb down, that allows my hand to come over. And you notice there's a little space in here. That's going to be really uncomfortable for a while. Until you build up strength, you're not going to be able to do that, and you're going to want to grip the neck. But we're going to practice a scale properly in order to teach our hands how to do that correctly. The next thing that I want you to focus on while we're practicing scales is something called preparation. Preparation means literally preparing my finger to play the next note that it's going to play. So while I'm playing the first note, I'm mentally and physically preparing to play the next note that I'm going to play. Okay, so this is what I mean. If I'm playing a C major scale, the first two notes are C with the second finger, D with the pinky. So when I play that C natural, I'm not really thinking about that C natural once I've played it. I'm thinking about this D, and I'm thinking, is my finger right above the fret? And is it out here or is it right here, just ready to drop down? Boom. Okay? As soon as I play that D, I'm thinking about the next note. And in this case, since that E is on the next string, boy, by the time I set that pinky down, I can already have that E down, and all I have to do is pluck it. That's what I mean by economy of motion. So now let's put all these things together. Remember, first, our thumb is down here. Our hand is out over the neck. My fingers are placed right over the fret, right over the metal fret, as close as possible, ready to just drop into position. And my fingers are not flying away from the neck. So as I practice the scale, what I would do is I put on a metronome and I'd play it very, very slowly so I can think about all these individual things consciously. Preparing to play the next one. Preparing to play the F. As I play the F, prepare to play the G. Move my first finger over to the A right away. Prepare to play the B. Prepare to play the C. See, my hand barely moved off the neck as I did that. Now, of course, I've practiced that hundreds or thousands of times. And as you consider practicing a scale in this manner, very slowly, very methodically, the thing that may occur to you is that it's going to take you forever to learn how to play music at this rate. But the fact is that this is actually the only way that you can really learn how to play very, very, very well. And all of us have probably spent years trying to do stuff faster than we should have. And all that happens is this. If I play a scale faster than I really can play it perfectly, and I play it kind of sloppy, whoops, and I try it again, and I play it sloppy again, and I try it again too fast, all that happens is that I've taught my hand how to do it wrong. My hand isn't smart enough to know that it's doing something wrong. It just knows that it's done it 3 or 4 times. So what I want to do is do it slowly enough so that I can do it perfectly. And this is what happens in the brain. When you do a complex series of actions and you do it 100, 200 times, the brain finds a way to make that more efficient, and it'll take all of those actions that were once in your conscious brain that you have to think about individually, and it actually sends it to another part of your brain. So they're all sort of, executed unconsciously without you thinking about it. There's no way that any musician playing a musical instrument is consciously thinking about everything that he or she is doing, thinking ahead about every note. A lot of it is just stuff that's been done slowly and perfectly so many times that when we actually have to do it in reality, it just happens because we've done it right so many times. So the idea here is that you want to practice, again, talk to any professional musician about this. This is the way to do it. You take something very simple like a scale and you do it very slowly and very, very meticulously, and do it 100, 200, 300 times before you even attempt to speed it up. So what my suggestion to you would be to take like the next 2 weeks and focus on one position of the C major scale and just do it as slowly and as methodically as you possibly can, focusing on getting a good sound, putting your fingers in the right place, making sure that your fingers are not flying away from the fingerboard, and making sure that your fingers are preparing for every note that they're going to play. So that's just one way to practice a scale in terms of just technique. And next time we'll talk about some other ways that we can practice a scale, shifting and playing in patterns and stuff like that. But until next time, have fun playing bass.